Hi, Karen.
Hi, Sal.
How are you doing?
I am tired today.
Yeah.
It's a rainy, sleepy day, isn't it?
It is very rainy. Last week we spoke about, and I know we're starting about the weather
I know,
again.
I was thinking that too.
But last week it was so beautiful, and we have torrential, flood-making rain at the moment, which is quite hectic because I often think of poor people who just, having their houses washed away,
Yeah.
while we sit in comfort and dry to put a damper on things. But yeah, I often think about that. Yeah. So today we are going to do a session on quieting the mind. I never know, is it quietening or quieting? It's quieting, hey? Quieting the mind.
I think that sounds right. Yeah.
Quieting the mind. And we're speaking about prayer, presence, and emotional grounding.
Yeah.
And from a therapeutic perspective, as well as from, I can't call myself a spiritual director or accompanier because I'm still studying, but just from that perspective as well, as I study and as I go through and as I experience and practice in these things. So I was thinking about the fact that I have struggled with depression in different stages of my life, but mostly from my 20s to my 30s. And my depression started mostly because of circumstances. So we know from the last podcast I've told people that our son died, but before that, he was born with disabilities. He had cerebral palsy and autism. So these are huge circumstances that I had to look at and work through, and it sent me into real spirals. And my mind was very busy, but in a very negative way. And the only way that I could combat that at the time was to read. So I would read novel after novel after novel to just quiet the negative voices in my head and the worry and the anxiety. I could just switch off from that. But I think long term, it's not a healthy coping mechanism because you don't actually deal.
Kind of like you could read to escape to an idealized world or live through someone else's problems and detach yourself from your current realities.
Yeah, exactly that. Yeah, so, and at the time I was trying to be, my life was a performance. So I'm trying to be this perfect daughter outwardly, this perfect worship leader, this perfect friend who wore a mask all the time, wore a mask at church, wore a mask with friends. Because if you are real, then you get handed a to-do list to get better.
Okay.
So the to-do list of you need to pray more. We mentioned it last week in our podcast. You need to pray more. You should read your Bible. And Christians shouldn't be depressed.
Right.
Which is you need to see the YouTube video to see my expression like that. When people say Christians shouldn't be depressed, I'm like, are Christians meant to be absolutely perfect or are we meant to be real, So when I was in that space, the problem was that I couldn't pray and I couldn't read my Bible. I just emotionally didn't have the ability to put myself in that space. So very often I would lie on my bed because I would sleep a lot as well as another coping mechanism. And I would lie on my bed and put my arms out and I would just say, Jesus, just come and love me because there's nothing else I can do. And then I would just turn over and fall asleep in the day sleeping. And it was a really difficult time because I was absolutely desperate for help. I had this very busy mind that I didn't know how to cope with. And there's a stigma when you're a Christian about seeing a psychologist.
Yeah.
Because, and even like a non-believing psychologist is even worse because honestly, what could they teach us, say? And Yeah, and I think that that's just such a terrible thing, because psychologists and therapists like yourself, you have knowledge to give us coping skills in that space. So I don't know if you want to say anything before I carry on.
Yeah, I think this idea that struggle is something that a Christian shouldn't experience is sort of a whole podcast in and of itself.
Yeah.
Like our aversion to discomfort, our aversion to pain, depression, that type of thing, and our this false belief that has crept in that you must always be joyful. And I think, as you said, like you found ways to cope with emotions that were considered unacceptable for you to be experiencing, or not having the tools or the safety to be able to say, like, I am struggling and what can I do? So the idea that someone coming alongside you in a supportive role, like a therapist or a psychologist, would somehow be bad, or a hindrance to your faith, or a sign of like weakness or unbelief, kind of boggles me, because if I think of how Jesus showed up and discipled and modeled, so much of it was in a coming alongside, doing life, and holding space for each other and for his disciples. So I think one of the ways that you mentioned earlier, just part of it as a means to get your body to relax to sleep, was just that lying back on the bed, throwing your arms wide and inviting Jesus to come into that present moment with you, is a great way to start dealing, to start processing, to start becoming aware and mindful of what it is that's actually going on the inside. Because we are so pain avoidant, I think people will do anything to not have to face their struggles. They want the quick answer. They want the magic prayer, the magic pill, the magic wand, the magic tool. But really, it begins with awareness. It begins with presence, which is, in essence, stopping and noticing. And I think that's not in contrast to, and I don't think that is kind of in opposition to walking out your relationship with God. In coming into those quiet spaces, So if I've got someone in my office with me who is struggling, if they are feeling overwhelmed, if they don't know where to start, if they start showing signs of dysregulation or feeling really anxious, like they're getting afraid of the emotion that is pushing up, something that I'll often do is like a grounding exercise, and trying to bring them out of running down the road in fear, which is usually anxiety-based, or getting stuck in the past in their grief and pain, and kind of ruminating back there is sort of often one of the signs of depression. It's how do we bring that person into this present moment, away from the racing thoughts and the runnings, but to actually just become present in the here and now. Because when we feel triggered, or when we feel overwhelmed, or like we're becoming dysregulated, a person's ability to think logically and rationally kind of flies out the window, and they become at the mercy of their nervous system. And so grounding and presence can also just help bring that regulation back. And so some of the tools or techniques will be like breath work. Neurobiologically, our breath is amazing in bringing regulation to our limbic system. Using the senses. So there's an exercise called the 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, which is starting with the eyes looking around the room and naming 5 things that you can see, then 4 things that you can feel, so that you can touch, 3 things that you can hear, 2 things that you can smell, 1 thing that you can taste. And I'll often explain to clients it helps your eyes see that everything is safe, your body to feel I'm not being harmed, your ears to hear, your nose to smell the house isn't on fire, but to kind of reestablish a sense of safety in the present moment. There's lots of different tools, but those are sort of the first go-to ones that I'll teach people, is working with breath and then a grounding exercise. Even things like just a body scan, becoming aware of what's happening in your body. Where are you feeling tension or pain, or what's happening with your heart? What's happening with your breath? Can you feel your feet on the ground? Can you, just becoming aware of your physical body, and kind of pulling yourself back from the racing thoughts into the present.
It's really, really helpful when you have those skills and we don't know them. We need somebody to help us with that. And also when you come in and you are feeling dysregulated, you're not able to think straight.
Yeah.
So it's really helpful to sit down with somebody and have a calming presence beside you to accompany you on the journey. Yeah. So I was thinking of a funny story. I mean, back when I was struggling with depression, and I haven't gone into any kind of depression, for the last 20 years, which is amazing. But I worked very hard to get to this point, changing my thoughts. But I just remember, because I didn't have access to a therapist at the time, or a counselor, really, it forced me to go to Jesus.
Yeah.
So I would feel the feeling. It was usually anger. So I know a lot of times if I'm down, if I'm feeling down and sad, I have to ask myself if I'm angry with somebody or angry, because when there's relational difficulty for me, it spirals me down. So I would sit with my Bible open and I would pray, and I'd just say, God, why am I angry? And this scene would immediately play out in my mind of something that happened that I suppressed. And it was usually something that my husband didn't do because, I'm married to the easiest man on the earth, and I had expectations of him doing something that I wanted, and he never did it. And then I'd get angry. And I remember the whole scene playing out, and then I would then send him an email at work, this poor man. And I'd go, I've been angry about this. I'm really sorry that I was angry when you didn't know. And I did that a few times because there was a lot there that I had to work through. And the one day I sent him an email and it said, I've been angry with you. And then he put his head down on his desk and just shook his head and thinking, not again. And then he looked up and started reading the rest of the email. And my second sentence was, now get your head up off the desk and just listen to me. And then he had a laugh, But it was that was the only way that I was able to communicate at the time. And it led to some kind of healing in me, which was really helpful. That communication, and he was my safe place.
Yeah.
So, yeah. So I... in my studies and in practice, I have to come into a place when I spend time with God, my mind is often very busy, and I'm thinking of 100 things that I have to do during the day, things that happened yesterday, emotional struggles that I may be dealing with at the time, and so I've developed a couple of practices that I do to quieten my mind. And one of them is that I light a candle and I watch it burn. So just that act, because it kind of switches your mind off.
Yeah.
When you're just watching something burn, or you're watching the rain outside, you go into a nothing place. Or when you see the way the sunlight comes in, how it reflects on a wall, or anything like that. When you watch the waves or clouds in the sky, or it really helps.
Just sort of taking time to become aware, notice, and stop, really.
Yeah. Stop. Yeah.
I think that's such a hard thing for us to do in our modern world, is to give ourselves the grace to just stop and enjoy candle burning.
Without any kind of spiritual thing,
Just for enjoyment's sake.
Just to enjoy and to calm my mind down. Because I think, we can get into this place where we over-spiritualize everything, where all we need to do is just quieten our mind down, and it doesn't require us to go into a zone. It helps us get into the zone by doing that small practice.
Yeah. What are some of the things that you notice? Like when you take those moments to just stop and say you're looking out the window at the rain falling, and what kind of things come into your awareness?
I stop thinking.
Yeah. So it really just is that place of quiet, of peace, of like mental rest.
Yeah, because when you're looking at a flame, you're kind of thinking, oh, this is bright. And so I don't stop thinking. Actually, I do think. But I stop thinking of other stuff.
Yeah.
Or it sparks and you suddenly go, oh, that was nice.
Yeah.
Or you put your hand out and you feel the warmth of it. And it's just a really lovely, calming thing.
So your mind kind of goes from like the spitting chaos to the awareness of the present moment.
Yeah.
What you're seeing in front of you. Maybe just noticing something that otherwise would be happening around you, but it hasn't held your attention in any way or come into your kind of awareness.
Yeah.
And in that, it's able to quiet the noise while you are taking a moment to just be in the here and now, in this very present moment that is never going to be that moment again. Just kind of taking stock and enjoying that space of quiet, of stillness.
Exactly. And I think that our time with God becomes very performative. So we take our performance and our masks and everything, and we often bring it into our prayer space. And like I can often think of Jesus sitting there going, well, this is not you. I know you. And that's not who you really are. And I often think that he's just saying, just bring who you are. I created you. I know you. And to come into that space without doing anything, without performing, without doing a ritual, without making our time with God into a recipe, but actually just coming into that space, quieting our minds, quietening ourselves down, and being. I remember often hearing a phrase, just be. And I think a lot of people hear it in terms of Eastern meditation and that kind of thing. But let's actually bring it into Christianity, because I think it's a beautiful thing. And when we are able to just be with God, we actually become present, as you were saying, with who we are in this moment, with whatever emotion I have, with whatever I'm dealing with. I can sit, watch a candle, deep breathe, and then just be quiet. And I don't even have to speak. I can wait. I can listen. I mean, other ways of quietening down are, I love this one. You can do it with friends. So you take whatever, it's best with wine, I think. And you know the 4-7-8? Okay. So the twist on it is to take your glass, inhale for 4 seconds, hold for 7, exhale for 8, and then sip. And then you
Nice.
end up having a laugh with your friends. And I think it's, it's a lovely thing to do on your own, but also if you find you with a friend and they are struggling, it's like, hey, let's just take a second. Let's just ground ourselves in this moment. And I enjoy that.
I think that's nice, even just as the companion.
Yeah.
You know, to take that moment to just ground yourself. Because the pressure can be, if you see a friend in pain or a friend that's struggling, our instinct is to want to help and make it better. And I think that's where we can often rush in our own frame of reference with our own perceptions, our own ideas, and our own advice, which then can become quite prescriptive. And the fear is, if we don't follow it, my friend's going to be upset with me.
Yes.
And that's where I think a lot of shame and hiding can come in, because people experience, oh, but why didn't you take the advice I gave you? Rather than just holding space and being in that present moment with someone.
Yeah.
Grounding yourself to not feel you have to step into doing mode, but to be with someone who is just being, can be a really powerful space. And permission giving to the other person. Like, I'm okay with your discomfort.
Yes.
You know, let's sit with this for a minute.
Yeah, that's huge. I think a lot of friendships revolve around advice giving.
Yeah.
And talking about other people, you know, whereas friendship can become really beautiful when we learn to sit in a space with what you're going through in this moment. And how can I listen?
Yeah.
Not to give advice, not to tell you what to do, not to say read your Bible, pray every day, because puke. That pat answer, you know. I think people will get to know my honesty, hey?
Yeah.
But it's hard for us not to give advice. It's hard for us to stay silent. It's really, if we learn to sit with somebody and listen with our whole selves, with our eyes, with our ears, with our spirit, and in that space, I'm going to say, Jesus, how are you loving this person?
Yeah.
And how can I show them that love from, which I think is how beautiful, hey?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Because, he knows that person so intimately. But to not rush moments. I think being heard is one of the most powerful healing tools. And we often just want to respond. We want to react. We want to fix. We want to help someone move through pain quickly because we find pain uncomfortable. But to take time to recognize your own discomfort when you see someone, like, that's always something I would encourage someone to get curious about. So what is it that's making you feel like you need to jump in? Why do you feel you need to have the right answer or the right advice? Why can't you just be and kind of, get curious about that and ask some questions? And again, in those moments of just stillness and awareness, being able to name the emotion that is pushing up. It might be helplessness. I feel helpless to know what to do for my friend that I care about. Or I'm scared. Or, gosh, this is pushing too close to home for me. Or I don't know what to say. I feel out of my depth, so I'm feeling insecure. And so instead of just letting the person that you're talking with feel what they're feeling in the urgency to want to have an answer, it becomes less about their experience and more about you.
Yeah.
So there's something deeply that I think there's a humility in being able to surrender and just be with someone.
Yeah.
It's not necessarily in our nature, but I
Yeah.
think like one of my favorite spaces is when I'm with someone and we're sitting together and it's that comfortable quiet. You just feel at peace with each other and in that space that you don't need to fill it with noise.
Yeah.
It's not an awkward silence, but it's a comfortable, it's a safe silence.
Yeah.
I think we're, as people, quite scared of silence.
So before we had our technical issue, need some camera equipment. Let's just take us back to the different things that you can do to calm your mind down in prayer. Because I think you were talking about in friendship how we heard all of that kind of stuff, which, that's right. And then I wanted to bring it into just talking about how we can know that we're being heard in such a beautiful way by God. And so, because He's the ultimate listener, and I mean, He knows and He sees into our hearts, and in such a non-judgmental way.
Yeah.
Which is really beautiful. So a part of quietening down as well is also for a breath prayer, and I know that this is something that you practice as well.
Yeah.
Is that whole breath prayer, and I think people do it in different ways. But I was looking at it like breathing in, and in my mind saying, "Your love is unfailing," and as you exhale, you say, "I take refuge in you." Breathe in again, and you think, "Your love is unfailing." Breathe out, "I take refuge in you." And that's also a beautiful way to bring yourself down.
Absolutely.
Yeah. And just that, the repetitiveness of that. You're not thinking of anything else. You don't have to think of anything else to say.
Yeah.
You're just saying that. And you're going into a space until you mean it. Because I think we can say something without actually meaning it. But the more you repeat it, the more it sinks in.
Yeah. Yeah.
With that breath prayer. And then another one that you've told me about is the beating,
hand on your
the hand on your heart.
Yeah.
So, I mean, you can do that, hand on your
Tapping.
heart, and you can just breathe with your hand on your heart. And because there's something that happens when you put your hand on your heart.
Yeah.
And then also the tapping on your heart brings, it's a way to ground ourselves, isn't it?
I remember the one day I ran into the shop for sugar. I needed to buy sugar. That was the only thing that I was buying. So I didn't have a basket, and I grabbed the sugar off the shelf and I'm holding it, and I just caught myself tapping the sugar while I'm holding it in my arms. And I actually had someone say to me, "So can you tell me, how old is your baby?"
That's hilarious.
It was instinctive, but I do think that there is something deeply calming in just sort of that somatic practice of tapping.
Yeah. It's amazing because on another level, repetitive movement is another thing that we can do to calm our systems down. And so I will often rock from side to side.
Yeah.
And in a supermarket again, how often have you been holding a trolley, looking at the products, and then pushing the trolley backwards and forwards like a pram? There's something that we need to soothe in a supermarket.
Absolutely.
I love it. And I think that's a woman thing, hey?
Could be.
And other things that we can do that I jotted down was walking slowly.
Yeah.
So I always say I do it myself actually. If I'm feeling anxious or uptight, I slow my whole day down and I walk slowly. I drive at the speed limit. I go into the slow lane. I do everything slowly, and it helps to
kind of with a focused intention.
Yeah, because if you're sitting in traffic and there's somebody going 40 in front of you, instead of getting irritated and going into the fast lane or changing lanes to try and overtake them, is to actually just stay behind them, put the hand on the brake, sit back, take a breath, and just go at 40 with them. And it's a great way to calm yourself down, and especially in traffic and this rain and
Have you ever used textures?
No.
That's something that, but I'm a sensory person. So if something is soft, or I've got a weighted stuffed animal in my office, that if I can see someone is quite emotional or kind of comes in a bit frazzled, I'm like, would you like to hold my elephant? And it's made
I love it.
out of that sort of fluffy material.
I think I've had your
You've had
elephant.
my elephant.
I have. I've
and
sat there.
it's weighted, but just the weight and the feel under the fingers is just, again, it brings you into the moment and just calms and quiets.
Yeah, and that thing of hugging something, is
even a self hug. You know, where you just sort of wrap your arms and give a squeeze and hold and just sort of have some pressure and then release and do that a few times.
And then you can also say, I love you.
Yeah.
In that, because how many of us can say that we love ourselves, you know? And I think when we're in a difficult emotional space, we don't give ourselves much love and attention. So to actually be able to hug yourself and say, I love you, and I want kindness to come to you in this space, it's really helpful.
Kristen Neff did some amazing work on self-compassion. And she identified 3 components, which really, really resonated with me because I've got a very loud inner critic. And so it's hard for me to actually be nice to myself. You know, I'll encourage my clients to have grace for themselves, but it's not easy for me. It doesn't come naturally. It's something I've got to work on. And she identified 3 components, which I think are quite helpful, just even in this conversation. And the one is mindfulness, which is that being aware.
Yes.
And again, you can incorporate things like your breath work and breath prayer into that. And just noticing. You know, I think mindfulness, people often think, oh, it's very woo-woo, but it's noticing.
Yeah.
It's starting at the top of your head and scanning down to your toes, or just going, what is pushing up right now, but noticing.
Yeah.
And then self-kindness, which is talking to yourself the way you would someone you love.
Yeah, that's so important.
It's so hard. It's so hard. So even just the act of giving yourself a hug as a reminder, you know, or because I think we'll say things to ourselves that we would never say to another person.
Yeah, exactly.
And so when we're feeling anxious, when we're in low places, that self-talk can actually make it worse.
Yeah.
But bringing an intention to speak kindly is, it's such an important step in learning to be able to make peace with yourself. And then the other one is common humanity, in that sense of, I'm not alone in this, you know, knowing that there is people out there that have endured hard things or have been through this, you know, why support groups are so helpful, because you can see others that have walked a similar journey or on the journey with you or what have you. But that sense of, I'm not alone in this can be really helpful.
Yeah.
And again, the practice of self-compassion means to stop, become aware, be gentle, and then connection.
And this is like biblical, because it's the whole thing of loving your neighbor as yourself. So how can we love other people if we can't be kind to? So if I'm gracious to myself, and I'm going to say to myself, you're okay. This is okay.
Yeah.
I'm not going to judge myself. And when we begin to practice to love ourselves in a non-judgmental way, then it becomes a thing that we do with others.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I stole something from Brene Brown. I read in one of her books where she would write herself a permission slip. And that's something that I'll sort of mentally do with myself.
That's so good.
But I'll do with other people too.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
let me give you a permission slip to say no to that.
Yes.
You know, if you're someone who always overburdens your calendar by saying yes all the time, like to put in a boundary. But even things like, I give myself permission to rest today.
Yeah.
I
that's
give
so
myself permission to not clean the kitchen, but sit for 15 minutes and have a cup of tea and just enjoy the feel of the warmth of the mug in my hands and
Wonderful.
do nothing. You know, like those small acts of generosity or kindness to yourself.
Is a way of quietening ourselves down as well.
Absolutely.
Yeah, which is amazing.
Because I think somehow we feel we don't deserve to be kind to ourselves. We don't deserve to stop. That rest is something that has to be earned when the to-do list is done. So it keeps us hustling, it keeps us pushing, it keeps us doing, so we don't feel like we're worthy of being able to stop and just be.
Yeah, that's so good. So good. So I thought, before I go into the whole thing of prayer, I want to say another way of quieting ourselves down. I keep saying the whole quieting ourselves down is writing to clear the clutter.
Yeah.
So I'm a writer. It's very helpful for me. I think better when I write. So if I've got a lot going on in my mind that I have to sort out, I will write it first in prayer form. And I'll just do a brain dump on paper and then kind of get it out of the way and then actually begin to do the breathing or the lighting a candle and watching it burn and that kind of thing, because it helps me to get into that space.
What do you find, like in that moment where you're just brain dumping? Are you analyzing what you're saying? Are you judging yourself for what you're saying? Or are you just releasing it?
I'm releasing it. So I'm basically telling God everything, all the stuff that I've been struggling with, all the stuff that has been in my mind and my heart, and I'm putting it down on paper, and it does give me a sense of release, and helps me to, because then I can sigh. Okay, it's out there.
Yeah.
Now I can just talk.
What do you feel in your body while you're writing? Have you ever taken a minute to notice?
I think I feel release. Yeah, I do, and I haven't actually realized that.
I know for myself, I'll often find that when I start writing, that the pressure and the tension with which I'm even holding the pen will change from the beginning to the end.
The speed at which I write changes.
The speed too, yeah.
Yeah, so I start writing. And then at the end, I've slowed down. Yeah.
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 And I don't care if it is messy or I've made spelling mistakes or, you know.
Crossed out words.
Yeah.
No. It's good. So I thought that I would just spend a little bit of time talking about going into prayer and how, when we are told to read your Bible and pray every day, because that's the thing that we've grown up with, how that is only something for one or two types of people. It doesn't encompass all of us who are very uniquely made, who need to have a different relationship with God. But before we go into that, I want to ask you if you know what prayer does for us therapeutically.
It's actually quite cool because prayer can regulate our nervous system. Because taking, again, the time to stop pray, there's a degree of release that can happen. It actually lowers our cortisol levels and takes us out of that fight or flight state, that elevated stress hormones, and brings a calm and a balance back in. It can increase emotional resilience, where we are so often afraid to experience pain and we just want to rush through it, numb it, avoid it. By praying and bringing the emotion into the prayer. I think we mentioned last week talking about lament.
Yeah.
But like the rawness and the ability to hold space in that emotion, we learn like, oh, wow, we can feel big things and we're going to be okay. It's not like the emotion isn't going to take me out. But it strengthens you emotionally. It helps provide a framework that allows us to reframe our stress. And part of that, I think of like the perfectionists and the control freaks in the world, that's me, how there's a degree of surrender that can come in where I want to control everything, or I want certainty and I want to know outcomes of situations that I'm in. And I just, I want the resolve, and I'm trying to find ways to hustle in my own strength to do it. In the act of praying, there's a degree of releasing control of what is uncontrollable and putting it into the safe hands of the Father. It's like, okay, I'm putting my burden over to you now. Like, will you take it? That kind of release and let go of control. It can reduce loneliness and increase optimism and hope, and it calms the mind. Prayer can be used as a tool for meditation, like we spoke of with the breath prayer. I mean, even something I'll find myself doing is take the scripture, be still and know that I am God. And I'll emphasize in the breath prayer a different syllable each time. Be still and know that I'm God.
Yeah.
Be still.
Yes.
And sort of go through the verse that way, and sort of that meditative repetition calms and helps ground and regulate.
Good one, yeah.
And I think it doesn't just have a neurobiological effect. It has a relational impact. It has an emotional impact. Because again, it can make a God who may be in the midst of our chaos that feels distant and removed. It can invite us into a space of intimacy where we can become aware of his presence, because again, you have to stop.
Yes.
I think about when my children were small and my mind was busy and I'm running around trying to cook supper and do homework and whatever, and how often I missed things because they would ask me things and it wouldn't even register because I'm so busy I'm not taking the time to like stop and be present and hear. So we can't always hear God when we're just filling our lives with distractions.
Yeah.
So again, that connection, that relational component of being able to give and receive with the Lord comes through prayer.
Yeah.
So
good. So good. So I want to mention that we all have different rhythms.
Yeah.
And to say to somebody, read your Bible, pray every day, is extremely unhelpful, number one. And number two, for many people, it's just boring.
Yeah.
And we don't want to have a boring relationship with God, because what is the point? I'm going to have coffee with you because our conversations are not boring. So I'm going to want to sit with God and not have a boring time, And the fact is that, we are all uniquely made, and God has created us to communicate in different ways. He's created us to have relationship with him in the way that we were created to have relationship with him. And we can't allow other people to tell us how we need to conduct our relationship with God. So, and you get people who are really straight-laced and linear thinkers who are just going to sit down and read their Bible, pray. And I'm not knocking them, but that's what they need. They need something concrete. But for us not to knock each other in this process, and also even just to say, you should be spending time with God first thing in the morning. You shouldn't pick up your phone first and whatever. But people are going to pick up their phones, check if there's messages overnight. And then you just go into your silencing bits, you're calming yourself down before you come. And also some people don't spend time with God first thing in the morning. Sometimes evenings are better for them, And so we can't prescribe what is best for us, for other people. And
it actually makes me think of Anne of Green Gables. I don't know if you ever read the book.
I didn't read the book. I watched.
You watched the movie,
the series.
Okay.
Yeah, I love it.
And I remember Anne saying she was told she had to say her prayers before bed, and kneel before her bed. And she's like, if I wanted to pray, I would kneel. I would go out into a field and just feel the prayer. You know what I mean? It's like, because we're all different.
Which is fabulous, because that's, I know of someone who can only hear God if she's walking in nature. And that is her thing. Just be quiet and let her do it.
I find when I'm in the shower, it quiets my mind because and the water and what have you, and that I often have a lot of dialogue with God then. Because there's nowhere else to go.
In your house.
In my house, there's no phone, there's no dogs. It's a quiet space. And the water, I think I'm grounded with the hot water, and I find it's very easy to connect with God there, rather than sitting in a prayer meeting. Where I might find insecurities rising because what if my prayer sounds silly? And the fear of man creeps in. But meanwhile, I can be in a deeply connected space silently. My prayers to God aren't always out loud, but more internal.
And I have had some amazing times within imaginative prayer. So a lot of people won't know what imaginative prayer is, and some might go, what are you saying? But so if you read the Gospels, they are all these amazing stories. And if you take the birth of Jesus, for instance, and you read that story in the Gospel, and then you just go into silence, and in your imagination, because God created us with imagination, so He meets us there. And I'm a very imaginative person, so I think in movies. So I will then go into a space where I think of that whole story, but I put myself into the story. And I'm often very surprised at how God meets me there. And that's a beautiful way for prayer. So I'll just quickly go through them as we end. And another way to pray is obviously Lectio Divina, which is divine reading, really. I think what I'll do is I'm going to actually write a blog on different ways to pray, and I'm going to put it into the podcast.
That's a good idea.
So that people can, with explanations of how to do this. So there's Imaginative Prayer, Lectio Divina, the Examen, which is an amazing help at the end of the day to reflect on your day. And worship as prayer, intercession, when you stand in the gap for other people. Walking prayer, art and prayer. We've got so many artists who find they can be deeply contemplative while they're drawing, while they're painting, which is beautiful. That's time with God, prayer in complete silence, where you actually don't talk, you don't even think of, you just sit in silence. And that takes a lot of practice, because you have to keep bringing your mind in, away from distractions, and you literally just wait for God to speak to you in whichever way He wants to speak to you. And also the prayer in journaling. But I think for me, I just want people to see that a relationship with God can be calming, can where we can be vulnerable. It can be validating. It can be a space where you can be completely yourself. And it can be playful.
Yeah.
Because we have, God created us with playfulness, with a sense of humor. And that's a beautiful way to communicate with God as well, is in playfulness.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So as we bring this one to an end, it's been a good one, I think. And I really, really hope that it takes takes people into a space of release about their relationship with God.
Yeah.
And how they can just calm their systems down and come into prayer, which is really, really helpful in every sphere of our lives. So thank you, Karen.
Thanks, Sam.